Hi, this video will explain Chapter 2, 2.1 Ecosystem Concept. Ecosystem concept, we have to learn about ecosystem and describe lake ecosystem, terrestrial ecosystem. Ecosystem means relationship between all biotic, which is the living things, and abiotic, which is the non-living components or things in a particular area that continually interact. There must be an interaction between the living components and the non-living components, so it will make up an ecosystem. The biotic components are such as plants, animals, decomposers, while the abiotic components includes the ground, the hydrosphere, atmosphere, and lithosphere. So we use the term hydrosphere, atmosphere, and lithosphere. Hydrosphere means the water, the liquid, the fluid. Atmosphere is the air. Lithosphere is the ground, the soil. Example of ecosystem include lake, marine ecosystem, and also forest ecosystem. Terrestrial. The interactions between biotic and abiotic components in an ecosystem influence all plant animal communities and the environment itself. So abiotic factors play an important role in limiting the type of organism that is able to survive in a habitat. For example, if the water is not sufficient to support all the biotic component, the living things, the human, the animals, the insufficient of water will cause some species die. Okay, it will limit the type of organism. The interactions can be seen through energy flow that transfer from one level to another level, and also the nutrient cycling that includes the biogeochemical cycles that we will learn later. There are two types of ecosystem that we are going to learn in details. First one is the lake ecosystem, and the second one is the terrestrial ecosystem of tropical rainforest. Malaysia has tropical rainforest ecosystem because we receive a large amount of rain throughout the year. Lake ecosystem, the zonation of the lake ecosystem was divided based on two criteria. First one is the light penetration, and the second one is distance from shore and the water depth. So from the diagram, it shows the light penetration. Here, light penetration, one zone, another zone. While for distance, one zone and another zone. The photic zone, the first one, photic zone, is the zone that receives sufficient sunlight for photosynthesis to occur. So it is usually on the surface of water until where the area where the sunlight cannot penetrate anymore. So for the photic zone, based on distance from shore and water depth, photic zone divided into littoral and lymnatic. Okay, the littoral zone shows that it is more closer to the shore, while the lymnatic zone is further from the shore. So the littoral zone is a well-lit shallow water, meaning that it is kawasan dia cetek, close to the shore, where rooted and floating aquatic plants are dominant. So we can find many types of plants dominating this area. Either the plants are floating or rooted. Meaning rooted, they can anchor their roots onto the soil. The example of floating plants are water lilies or any immerged or submerged plants, which becomes the place where the insects shed their larvae or where we can find the insect larva stuck on the leaves. The role of aquatic plants is to produce oxygen, provide food and shelter for the insects, crustaceans such as prawns, frogs, turtles and fish. The Lymnatic Zone is the well-lit open surface but far from the shore. It is the habitat of phytoplankton, zooplankton and other fishes. So phytoplankton there are two types of plankton, the phytoplankton, which is the producer, while the zooplankton is usually the first consumer that consume the phytoplankton. So phytoplankton and zooplankton are both in the kingdom Protista. Aphotic zone is the area beneath the photic zone that receive insufficient light, that does not receive penetration of light. So the light is insufficient for photosynthesis to occur. And aphotic zone usually does not exist in shallow lakes because sunlight can reach all the way to the bottom of the pond. So there is no area that did not receive light for photosynthesis. Aphotic zone is usually inhabited by detritivores that feeds on that organism. In between the photic and aphotic region, we can find a compensation point which shows that it is the area where photosynthesis rate is equal to respiration rate. The photosynthesis is the production, meaning the products of the producer, the amount of the product, and then respiration rate is respiration rate is when we respire, we use oxygen. So photosynthesis produce oxygen, respiration use up the oxygen. So photosynthesis rate equal to respiration rate means there is no net primary productivity. The number, for example, an easy example is the number of oxygen used is equal to the number of oxygen produced. Okay, or the glucose produced equal to the number of glucose that will be used. So there is no net gain of organic material in photosynthesis. We know that during photosynthesis there are productions of oxygen and also carbohydrate. Mantic zone is the bottom of all aquatic biomes. Even in shallow lake or deep lake, in shallow lake also there is a mantic zone because ada dasar kan, the bottom is there. But for the deep lake, there is no light penetration, so it will become there is no photosynthesis. But for shallow lake, the light can penetrate, so there will be producer or plants that can be found in the benthic zone of the shallow area. Benthic zone is the zone of decomposition which we can find decayed plants and animals that sink to the bottom, then accumulate there and become sediments of the soil. The zone is dominated by oxygen-consuming organisms rather than oxygen-producing organisms. This usually occurs in the deep lake. Energy sources for organisms in this zone come from organic matter that drift down from the littoral and lymnatic zone. So they become sediments at the soil. And benthic zone are dominated by benthos, which is a decomposing organisms. And as an example, the bacteria and fungi. Now let's look at the terrestrial ecosystem, the tropical rainforest, which is closely related to Malaysia. We have tropical rainforest, which is the richest and most diverse biome with structure and species diversity. We can find so many species living in our tropical rainforest. Our tropical rainforest has high temperature, but also at the same time high humidity. because they receive a large amount of rain throughout the year. There are 5 layers that we have to memorize. Layers of the tropical rainforest. The lowest one is the crown layer, and the higher than crown layer is the shrub layer, and then we have the understory, canopy, and then emergent. This diagram shows the layers, the 5 layers that includes the animals living in each layer, animals that we can find in each layer. Okay, the stratification and biotic components. The stratification involves the 5 layers. The type of tree in each layers are represented or displayed in this table. You can see crown layer dominated by bryophytes, and the animals includes ants and centipede. The animals are animals that live in the especially the animals that live in the ground, macam semut, centipede is lipan. Then shrub layers are dominated by pteridophytes, because pteridophytes they can live on another plant. Okay, so they are usually larger than bryophytes, so they can dominate the shrub layer. And then the animals of the shrub layers are include tape, deer. And then understory, we have lianas tree. You can search in the website. What does the lianas look like? Because lianas is a woody plant, but it needs to have support from another plant to grow. Then we have palm tree. The animals include woolly opossum and bat. Then we have canopy layers dominated by epiphytes, because epiphytes are another type of plants that live on another plant. Then the animal includes the hornbill, and the emergent layer are the layer that shows the highest plant, and the highest plant that emerge from the canopy layers. And the animals that usually live in the highest layer are animals that can fly or animals that can withstand the strong wind. The emergent layer consists of the crowns of the oldest, the tallest trees that can reach to 40 meter or more in height. If we look at the forest, we can see that the trees that emerge from the lower layer, that is the emergent layer. These trees are exposed to direct sunlight, the warmest temperatures, has the lowest humidity, and exposed to strongest winds. So they need to be very strong. They need to be very what we call it, they have a different type of root. So the example of plants are meranti, tualang, jati cengal, yang semua jenis kayu balak lah, pokok balak. And the example of animals includes eagles. Eagles can fly, so they can reach the emergent layer. Monkeys, they are very good climber, and also birds, other birds. The second top layer is the canopy layer that can reach a height of 30 to 35 meter. They are exposed to more sunlight. Example of plants include epiphytes such as orchids, and example of animals include insects that can fly, bats, birds. The understory layer receive little light, less than 5%, because they are shorter, because the light has been because the light cannot reach under the canopy too much, so they receive little light. Many plants are adapted to climb the already established host trees such as lianas. And then we have the shrub layers that consist of smaller plant. They receive little light than the understory. So most rainforest mammals such as sloths, monkeys live only in the tree and never climb down to the ground. only if they or their foot are there. If their foot fall to the ground, then they climb down to the they go down to the ground. The layer consists mostly bryophytes and some flowering plants. The ground are covered with drop leaves, fallen trees, and dead animals, which decompose quickly by bacteria, fungi, insects, and detritivores. This rapid recycling of scarce soil nutrients is why the little litter is found on ground layer. Jadi tak berlonggok sebab banyak decomposer dengan detritivore. Decomposition nutrients also taken up and stored by trees, vines, and other plants. Okay, thank you.